Hey everyone, this is Group 6, and we are presenting an overview of Chapter 8 Pebbles in an Avalanche of Change, which is pretty much just finding your own path towards changing the world. The whole point of this chapter in Reimagining Capitalism in a World on Fire, Rebecca was really pushing the reader. This is the chapter where the reader is supposed to take action. Rebecca wants us to take action to make a change in our lives. And this chapter really dives deep into being that pebble that causes the avalanche to make that change. So here's a little chapter overview here. We're going to do a chapter intro, then we're going to go into our $12 trillion opportunity, which will lead into the pebbles in an avalanche of change, why that metaphor is really relevant in that chapter. Then we'll go into the 6 steps to making a difference, then the John story, and then we'll do a recap of the chapter and the key takeaways you should take from chapter 8.
To be hopeful in bad times is not just foolishly romantic. Human history is a history of not only cruelty, but also of compassion, sacrifice, courage, and kindness. Howard Zinn. This chapter starts with a quote from Howard Zinn that really sets the emotional tone for everything that follows. It encourages readers to stay hopeful even during difficult times and remember that history isn't full of only cruelty, but also compassion, courage, and kindness. Henderson uses the idea as a foundation for this chapter. She wants us to realize that we choose to focus on what shapes our direction of society. If we only see the bad, we lose the motivation to make things better. But if we remember the good of humanity is capable of, we find energy to act up and change those things. This message connects directly to the theme of reimagining capitalism because Henderson argues that hope and human cooperation are essential for transforming our current system into something that's far more sustainable and fair. Reimagining capitalism. In this section, Henderson paints a picture of what capitalism could look like if we completely reimagined it. In her version, businesses focus on creating real value rather than chasing a profit at any cost. Companies would work closely with government to fight climate change, promote equality, and protect democracy. Consumers would refuse to buy from unethical firms, and workers could use their voices to demand fairness and sustainability. Henderson knows that this sounds idealistic, but uses real historical examples to show that huge changes can happen before and have happened before. Humanity has ended slavery, expanded democracy, and lifted billions of people out of poverty. Her main point is that we already have the intelligence and resources and technology to fix what's broken. The key is choosing to act with hope instead of criticism. She ends the introduction by reminding readers that even small and hopeful actions can add up to create a better and more just world.
Okay, let's jump into the $12 trillion opportunity. Now you're probably thinking, what is this $12 trillion opportunity? Well, this opportunity springs from the UN Sustainable Development Goals, and these goals are meant to be completed by sustainable or ethically minded businesses by 2030. And by achieving these goals, there's a large opportunity at stake here that businesses should definitely take advantage of. Because by completing these goals, they could create a $12 trillion in new market opportunities, which is huge. That's perfect for businesses that want to enter new markets and make money. And if it also applies to their purpose, even better. So some of the opportunities rely into these 4 markets. In this chapter 8, Rebecca really breaks it down to these 4 niches: food and agriculture, infrastructure, energy and resources, and physical and mental health. Now, why are these super important and why should new businesses go into it? Well, that's because this is where sustainable minded businesses can align their purpose and yet still make tons of profit. Look at all the T's there. That's in the trillions. That's amazing. And that's also where their change could be profitable. It's amazing. It can help elevate the future, evolve new technology, and really improve life overall, especially with new products, new services. And of course, these markets can be really rewarding. Again, look at those numbers. It can really help. So taking advantage of that $12 trillion opportunity can really be beneficial to businesses. And that's why Rebecca really pushes new business owners to go into those markets, find the opportunity, and really take advantage of what's there in that new market. In this section of chapter 8, Pebbles in an Avalanche of Change, this is where Rebecca really pushes the reader to take action and to make that change. And that's where she introduces the metaphor that really puts the whole chapter together. The metaphor in the book, Rebecca writes, each of us is only a pebble, but enough pebbles moving together can start an avalanche. What she means by that is that individuals, us, we're pebbles. But when we all get together and collab and work together towards a change, that's when we can really start a movement and a pivot in the business world, creating an avalanche. Do you get it? We're pebbles. When pebbles work together, we make an avalanche. It's amazing, right? Some key aspects when she broke down this metaphor and how it can apply to the business world were really these 5 key points. And the first one being small, consistent efforts. That's where we come in, the pebbles, making our everyday small efforts towards improving our business world or the companies we're working for, can really push for action and change. And of course, that really shows that only we can make a difference. You yourself can make a difference. Nobody else is going to do it for you. So being the first one to stand up and like really advocate for a change or push for an action can really inspire others to join you as well. And that's where leaders inspire others comes into play. Having ethical, sustainable minded leaders in the business world can really help innovate the business and inspire others to join in their action, work towards a purposeful goal, and really try to improve the world of business. And again, that really brings us to collaboration, working together, being able to collaborate with one another. Because every one pebble really makes a difference. We are all a pebble. So working in a team, the more the merrier, the better the cause, and the larger the movement is. And being able to act on those values is just as amazing. Because when we all share a purposeful goal, a shared goal, that just makes the movement even more inspiring and more impactful in the business world. So, the one major key takeaway from this chapter should be that we're all pebbles. Pebbles should work together in order to make an avalanche of change. And being able to be a part of that team, collaborate with others, and inspire others to be a part of this difference can really help enhance the business mission, vision, or its overall values on the world.
Hi, everyone. My name is Catherine, and my part of Chapter 8 was 6 steps to making a difference in your life and how the changes you make in your life can affect others greatly. Moving forward into the first section of my chapter, it was called To Discover Your Own Purpose. One of the biggest points out of that book was reflecting on the ways in which the problems of our current age have echoed through our own life. Everything that's going on in the world and everything that goes on through your daily life can really affect you, and it can also affect how you go about your life and how you interact with others. Two quotes I pulled from the book were, "A lot of us are broken, and in the profound brokenness of the world, we see echoes of our own hurt and losses." And the second quote was, "We become healers to address both our own wounds and those of others." Both of those are really profound quotes from the book, I thought, because it is true. The brokenness of what you go through in your own life can go through and affect others and how you treat others, but also you become knowledgeable about what you've gone through, and you can take that and use it towards other people if they are going through something. If you don't already have a clear sense of what you strive for and why, take time to work on yourself was the last quote I pulled from this section. Because sometimes if you don't know what you want to do with your life, or you don't know what you're going for, or you don't know what values you stand on, you have to be able to figure that out on your own. The second section of the book I have is called Do Something Now, and it goes through ways that you can make changes in your life to help offset your energy outputs and your carbon footprint on the world. A couple of steps for that are to decide to drive or fly less. That's a very big opportunity to decrease our energy. Another one is to only buy from companies that treat their employees well. That's another way to support ethical employment practices, which goes towards the greater good of the world. You can also insulate your house or put up solar panels, and you can also buy your energy from a green energy provider if you can. Obviously, not everyone can afford to do that, but if you can, it's a great way to help offset your carbon footprint. Making even a small sacrifice will help persuade you that you can make a difference and that your voice counts. Even the smallest changes in your life can make your voice count in the world. Also, going along with that, since we are all social primates, your actions will help you persuade others to change their own behavior. If someone sees you doing something, they might also want to input that practice into their life. I wanted to input a discussion question for everyone, and the question I had for everyone was, what changes in your life could you be making that would benefit you or the greater good? Such as, like, could you switch your light bulbs out to be something more energy efficient? Could you drive less and maybe walk to class? Just time to think about stuff like that and see what you can change in your life that would help. The third section was about bringing your values to work. So putting forward the values that we've already talked about in the previous slides and bringing them with you to work. You don't necessarily have to be a CEO to drive change within your company. Even if you're maybe even an intern, you can maybe do something little that will influence other people to start doing it as well, and it'll create a small change in your workplace that can have a greater output. The fourth section was about working in the government. Not everyone has to be the president, but there are very minuscule roles in the government that can help. And a quote from the book that I thought that was really great about that is, "We won't get far without rebuilding government trust at every level." So even if you're a club president, or you're in the student government, or you're working with governors, or you're working on a presidential campaign, that can always help spark a small change that could lead to a really big change eventually. The fifth section of the chapter was to get political. Not so much maybe to speak your opinions really loudly, but to take from other people, such as to take courage from the examples of others and input those practices into your life. Also, working in a community teaches us that organizing is the founding principle to any kind of social change, which means that you kind of have to have a community with you to believe in the same opinions, and having people believe in the same opinions as you can really make a big change. We need to learn how to take a goal, break it into its component parts, give the right people ownership of each part, and fight until we see a resolution. So this quote from the book kind of talks about how if you have a big idea, sometimes it takes breaking that idea down and finding the right people to help you with that idea, and then fighting until you see a resolution. And then a part that I thought was really important in this section was that change is slow until it's fast. An example of that from the book was the avalanche looks nothing like but a few pebbles moving until the whole hillside goes. So just because you think that your idea is super tiny, it can keep rolling and rolling and rolling until it's a really big idea and creating a large change. And the last step of my section was to take care of yourself and remember to find joy. The two things that I took out of this chapter were don't judge your success by whether you save the world. Just because you didn't make this monumental change throughout the entire world, it doesn't mean that you're not making a change within your work, within your life, or within even your community. And then the second one is if you can make even a small part of a firm a better place to work, you will change lives. So that's going on the first point. Even if you made this small little change, but it helps other people, you're changing their lives, you're making their lives easier, you're making all of your lives more beneficial to work in.
The John story. In this chapter, Henderson reflects on the life and death of her late husband, John Hutra, who was an astronomer at Harvard. Through his story, she shows that small actions such as compassion, purpose, and gratitude can create meaningful change when it comes to life and business. John Hutra and his legacy. John achieved many incredible things through astronomy, but what mattered most was his character. He mentored students and valued discovery for its own sake because he was humble, generous, and passionate about science. Henderson admired how he cared deeply about people and nature, and he becomes a symbol of the kind of ethical and purpose-driven life that she believes can transform how we think about leadership, work, and success. Think of someone you know who inspires others not by power or money, but by kindness and integrity, and what makes them impactful. Lessons from loss. When John passed away, Henderson felt lost, but through this grief, she discovered a new meaning. She realized that many people go through life without truly living because they're too focused on success to experience love, joy, or create meaningful connections. She explains that the real measure of success is not wealth, but the way we treat others and the care we bring into the world because ethical transformation starts inside ourselves. What does living fully mean to you in your own studies or career goals? Henderson ends with hope. She reminds us that even small acts of integrity, such as treating employees fairly, caring for the planet, or showing compassion, can create a long-lasting impact. She explains it as songs the universe is singing, because we are all a part of one living system. Because in order to reimagine capitalism, we must first reimagine ourselves, living with compassion, courage, or connection. The key takeaways. Firstly, hope and action can transform the world. Rebecca Henderson shows that hope is not just optimistic, but it's a choice that gives us the courage to act when we combine with hope with action, to create the energy needed to solve global problems. Secondly, solutions create both moral and economic value. She reminds us that doing the right thing is not only ethical, but also profitable, because achieving sustainability could open trillions in the new market opportunities while improving these lives worldwide. Thirdly, small, consistent efforts can lead to large-scale change because every small act matters. Like Henderson says, each of us is a pebble, but enough pebbles moving together can start an avalanche. Because real change begins with daily actions and a shared purpose. Fourthly, ethical leadership begins with personal purpose and compassion. Henderson's story of her late husband John shows that leadership is rooted in kindness and meaning. It creates a long-lasting influence. Understanding our purpose helps us lead with empathy and integrity. Fifthly, living with integrity and joy gives meaning to success. Henderson shows that true success is not about status or wealth. It's about living ethically and caring for others and finding joy in making a difference. When we do that, both people and the planet are able to thrive. Thank you.